Hey everyone, as you may have noticed, I did not publish an episode of Not the Same this past week. This was not because I quit or just forgot. Because of the time needed to bring you quality material, I have made the difficult decision to change my publishing schedule from weekly to bi-weekly or every other week. This will ensure that the integrity of each episode will not be lost in an attempt to rush through everything. I am thoroughly blessed to continue in this endeavor and will keep going as long as I am able. So that being said, please don't hesitate to contact me with questions or suggestions through the podcast email, notthesame.cfm@gmail.com. As always, thanks for listening. Welcome back to another episode of Not the Same, where I bring you true stories of real people sharing their personal testimonies of transformation. I'm your host, Rachel Heinberg. Last week, we heard from Cherie Yuxke for our 20th episode, which was an exciting milestone. As always, I'm grateful for everyone that has been a faithful listener. You are the reason I do this. If this is your first time tuning in, thank you. I hope this becomes a new favorite. We are available on all major platforms, so pick your favorite, like, subscribe, follow, and most of all, share. If you would like to reach out with a comment or suggestion, please do so. The best way to do that is through the dedicated podcast email, notthesame.cfm@gmail.com. Last week was a great view of the purpose of a testimony. We all have a unique story, and whether or not it's spiced up, as Cherie said, or just a great illustration of God's grace, every single one is just as powerful. Today I have with me Rutana de Klerk. Rutana is a faithful woman in the church here in El Dorado Park, and as I understand, she has been here since just about the beginning. She came highly recommended, and so I'm excited to get into this today. First of all, I want to say thank you very much for agreeing to share with me your testimony. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. Looking forward to it.
So just start with your history, your life growing up. You can take time.
Okay, I'm Rutana de Klerk. I'm the eldest daughter of my parents. We are 6, and growing up was actually wealthy. Growing up in a house with 2 parents. When I just started to turn 12, then I realized my parents is alcoholics, and my mother actually made me responsible at the age of 12. So I had to go and pay the credits, take a bus to town.
Wow. You didn't know before then about the alcoholism?
My mother was actually raised in a convent. So my father took her out, and he was also 9 years older than my mom.
Are they from here?
My mom is Portuguese, from Portugal. Her father, my grandfather, he had his first fruit and veg shop in Kliptown. But because my grandmother was very racist, and on the farm, she actually killed a black guy. Wow. And they deported my grandfather.
She did it?
Yeah, my grandmother.
And this is your mom's mom?
Yeah.
And where was it, the farm? Like close by here in Gauteng?
Yeah, it was close by here, yeah. And then they deported my grandfather, but not my granny, because she went to jail.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So your mom was quite small when this happened?
My mom was small, yeah. They were still very young, because my mom is the eldest, and then she's got 2 brothers. Luckily, when I was born, my mom was 19 years old. My mom got married when she was 16.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, my grandmother was out. But she actually grew us up. My father he didn't like to work. Okay. So my mom had to look after us. But like I say, I come from a very wealthy house where I had everything.
Okay.
If there's this fashion, I had it. When it was that fashion, I had it.
And what year were you born?
1966. Yeah.
So this is the 60s. This is well into the apartheid era.
Yes.
Where everything was very intense. There was lots of lines drawn.
Exactly.
So your mother was Portuguese and
Portuguese, but my father's Hindu. Yeah.
So your mother's Portuguese, and your father is Hindu. Yes. So how did they end up meeting?
Very bad. My father used to get whooping all the time because of walking with my mom. Wow. She's white. But eventually, they got married.
Portuguese are considered white. So then he's Indian. And I know during that era, it was the 4 groups.
Yes.
That's it. And you weren't allowed to mix.
Exactly. So they had to meet far away way, but he always used to meet in town. The police will get him in, whoop him, take him to jail.
And he'd get out and do it again.
And then he'll come out and do it again. And then eventually they got married.
To get married, was it difficult?
It was quite difficult. My mom was 16. My eldest brother was born, but he died at 7 months.
Okay.
Then I came after my mom was 19 when I was born.
And did they get married before that?
They were married.
Okay.
Yes.
So then what was their home?
In Eldos, yeah.
Okay.
Yes. I was born in Noordgesig. Yeah, then when I was a baby, then I think they moved to Eldos.
Okay. That would have been a fairly newer township at the time.
Yes, yeah. Because my mom didn't know about alcohol and stuff. My father come from a very rich family. He drank since the age of 13, started smoking. So he actually taught my mother to drink and smoke.
Okay.
And she overdo it. That's why my mom actually died when she was 58. And I'm 58 now.
Wow. So he introduced her to all this. Yes. Okay. Did she work when you were young?
My mother worked all her life since the age of 16 until she died.
And so you were the oldest, and how much till the other ones came?
I've got the older brother, and then I'm the eldest daughter. There's 3 sisters and then 1 brother. In between, my mother had 3 miscarriages.
Okay.
Yeah. After my sister, after me.
Oh, okay.
And she got a son, and then she got a daughter in the Lat Lamiki. Yeah, she's now 40-something. Yeah, she was born 81, and my mom was 35 at the time.
Yeah. And were your parents always together? Always
together. Then I realized I must look after my parents' children because they always drunk.
Yeah.
You know? And I was thinking, this is not fair. And I became very bitter.
So up until 12, what was your home life?
It was okay at home. Like I said, we had food on the table, but I was a very bitter person. I always did my parents' duties, cook, clean. When they come from school, I had to do their schoolwork, finish, wash them, because my mother worked. She'll come and don't even check at my books, whether I fail or I pass. So she worked with a ball street. I wanted to be an air hostess. I said, no, if I turn 17, I'll go to Lorenzo Marx, it's Mozambique. Then I can just do 2 languages and then do my air hostess. 2 weeks before I turned 17, I changed my mind.
What made you change your mind?
I could not leave my siblings behind. I could not, but I don't regret it. That's why they really respect me.
Yeah.
So I'd grow up my siblings.
At age 12, what made you realize that they were alcoholics?
They used to go Fridays to dance. My father come home with a lot of people. And then I'll hear someone in the dining room will say, why are we here? Your kids are sleeping. My mother's in the bed. My father's putting the radio loud. Then I'll stand up, chase the people away, throw the tables with the liquor out and stuff like that. That is where I realized. And I woke up that morning and I said to my mom, you guys are so unfair. You go to dance, you come back, and then you still put on the radio, you see we are sleeping. My eldest brother was a humble person. So I was actually the hard one. My granny grew us up.
So she stayed with you guys?
Yeah, she stayed with us.
Okay.
And one day my mother said I must go and buy liquor. I said, I did not teach you to drink. And she smacked me. Okay. And then she wanted to send me for cigarettes. I said, I'm not. I didn't entertain your habits. I'm not going to buy cigarettes.
How old were you?
I was 12, 13, 14. I became rebellion because I started to talk back now and said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm sorry. And then she'd take my privileges away. I used to make my own money. I took photography, wedding photos.
Okay.
I used to make bouquets for funerals and parties. I used to bake cakes, decorate the cakes.
Wow. Yeah. You were like the one-person wedding planner there.
Yes. And I used to buy chupas, sell chupas. Yeah. So when I turned 21, I had my own bank account.
Wow.
So I had to do that because I could see I'm in an environment where I must look after That's why I never had boyfriends. When my husband got me, I was clean and he married me. I had to take initiative and actually look after them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was 4 of them.
That's a lot for a 12-year-old.
Yes, Make sure in the morning I make their breakfast, take my sister to the creche, take the others, and then I'll come back. I must take a bus to high school. I went to school in Notthesame. From school, make sure they do their homeworks. My parents come from work, it's cooked. And then I only do my homework when everybody sleeps, and then I'll do my homework. Yeah.
You said you were very bitter and then rebellious.
Yeah.
But you didn't have time to get into trouble.
No, not at all. I didn't have time. So I was never in fights.
Yeah.
No one came to my parents' house to say, Rutana did this. They always would say, I'm such a good girl. And
But inside you were just...
yeah, they didn't know. You know, even looking at someone or someone looking at me, I could just grab you and just throw you against the wall.
Wow.
In the bus, if you just look at me, I'll summa clap you. Yes.
So this was the anger that was lashing out?
Yes. So when I turned 14, my parents was also so drunk. You know, we had double bunks because we had small houses. So I made sure everybody's sleeping. And then I heard something like a cat. We don't have cats. And when I woke up, then my father was busy violating one of my sisters, the one after me.
Oh, wow.
And my mom is laying next to him. And then I ran in the room and I grabbed him and I threw him off and I took my sister and I slept with her. So the following morning I woke up, I told my mom, are you aware what your husband is doing? And my mother couldn't understand. Until today, my father is denying it. He's turning 90. That made me hate my parents.
Wow.
I said, are you not going to report it? My mother said, no, this and that. And I called my brother. I said, can you please come here? There's something I need to tell you. And my brother was so angry. Nothing was done. 2-3 years went by. I hated my parents. Yo.
So you hate, obviously, your father for that reason, but because your mother never did anything?
Yes, never.
So you hated them both?
And you know what actually happened? If we go out, maybe we come and visit you and you say, no man, why don't you guys sleep? Now we all sleep. But you'll always take the sister of mine. And I was wondering.
Wow.
So maybe it happened before that I never knew. So then when I realized, then we slept out again at family, and he wanted to say, you're not taking her home. Take your wife home. You just leave her here. We actually pulled her like this. I pulled her this side. My father pulled her that side. At that time, I was now already 15, 16.
But he knew that you knew.
Yeah. Got married.
Let's talk about that. How old were you? How did you meet your husband?
I was actually 20.
Okay.
Then I said, now I'm going to work or look for a townhouse. Just get out of the house. Then one night I was guest of honor at a friend's 21st.
Okay.
And I was busy in the room. My mom was busy doing my hair. And then I heard voices. So I went out, I greeted. It was neighbors in our street. And there was a guy sitting there. And I still tell my mom, who's that handsome guy sitting there, you know? My mom said, it's Uncle George's son. And then the Sunday after church, because you know we were Catholics most, after church you go to the club. I was at his cousin's house and he was sitting there. And he asked my name and I said, I don't want boyfriends. I just want to work and get out of the house. We went out to his sister's place in Proti and he's there where he took my virgin. My son was 8 months old, then we got married.
Trying to be couth here, but was it consensual, like you liked him and...
Yeah. Okay. But I didn't think I'll fall pregnant because all of my friends were not clean and none of them were pregnant. So I thought, oh, okay. And he told me I must go on contraceptive. I said, what is that?
Yeah.
I don't know. In the meantime, I never knew. I used to fetch my mom's contraceptives. And I asked my mom, what is the tablets that I used to go and fetch for you at the clinic? And my mom would just laugh. If I knew, I'd have, go on the contraceptive and not fall pregnant.
We fast forward how many years and they still have no concept of how you become pregnant. And then when they become pregnant, then they're like, how did this happen?
Yes.
No one taught them. So did you fall pregnant the first time?
I immediately.
Oh, wow.
Immediately.
So let's talk about that. You said you finished school, everything was good at school. You're just taking care of your siblings. Yes. Obviously, you're protecting your sister.
You know, when I grew up, I never said I want to get married. And I never said I want to have kids. And in my mind, I was saying, if I must get a daughter, I will protect my daughter against this, Also, going into the marriage, didn't know this guy. Actually, my mom liked him because he had his eyes. Didn't know he was divorced. He had children outside. And I was more bitter.
So you meet this guy, obviously progresses and you fall pregnant on your first time. And
I didn't want to get married.
So that's why you put it off? Or
yes, I put it off. Because my mother was asking, are you sure you're not married? You don't have kids? And he said to my mom, no.
So he was lying about.
Yes.
Wow. So when did you find out?
After, Rachel, and because we don't believe in divorce, and I said, I come from this house. I'm coming here. I'm thinking, you are doing all those things.
So your dad was a Hindu.
Yes.
And your mom was a Catholic.
Yeah.
Did your mom just take you guys to church, or did you go as...
Faithfully. Faithfully, my mom used to take us to church every Sunday. My father will go now and again.
Okay. So every Sunday you're going with your mom?
Yes. And we think it's most right. We didn't know what is the Bible.
Yeah.
We had this Catholic book. Even I didn't know. My mom didn't teach me about, getting your period. Luckily at school, we went to Coronation Hospital where we had a workshop. I literally stood on the chair and asked the doctor, I want to know. Because I had to ask all these questions. I used to go and sit in libraries to read books. That's why I'm still reading today. Because my mom was a very shy person. I had to teach myself, and that is how I instilled it in my sisters. You know what, Rachel, that I didn't know? Went to my mom's place on a Saturday, and then my small sister said he tried it with her. And that was the last straw. And I called my brother. My sister, she had on the small shorts, and he'll tell her, hey, you look so nice. I said, Daddy told that to you. I think he didn't try it with me because he could see I have a mouth on me. And then I called my brother. I said, please come. Because my mother was at the time in Cape Town doing work. And he tried again with Sandy. And then he tried it with this one. And then we sent him to jail.
So you called the police and everything?
Yes, he was
Or did
arrested.
he beat him up first?
Yes. He went to jail. I made sure. I said, no ways.
Did you talk to your sister about what happened with your dad?
Rachel, I had social workers. Made 5 appointments for her. She never went. Till today, I don't know how does she feel. She never went. She never attended counseling.
Wow.
During the night, 1 o'clock, she'll call my house phone. Then I'll pick up. Then she starts crying on the other side. I just dream now Daddy's raping you. I said, don't worry, Daddy won't do that anymore to no one.
So she would have a fear that he was doing it to you.
Yes. That is why I never made my kids sleep at my parents' place. And then my son asked me one day, I said, if you're 16 years old, remind mommy, there's something I need to tell you. He turned 16, I told him. He says, now he understood.
Wow.
Melissa asked me the same question.
Yeah.
And when I told her, she says, Mommy, I'm so sorry. I know most. That is why I didn't let you
How long
go.
was he in jail for?
5 years.
Okay. And when he came out, did he go right back to your mom's house?
Yes. That made me more angry. Remember, I'm still hating my parents. Now I'm in this marriage. I'm hating my husband.
So during this time, is he also doing the same? Like, is he cheating now and he's drinking, and is he...
My husband.
Your husband?
Same thing.
Wow.
I'm like, no, man. I didn't sign up for this. I was very protective over my daughter.
You have your son. What's his name?
Wendell. Yeah.
And then how much after did you...
3 years. After Wendell, I got miscarriage. Then Melissa was born after 4 years.
And what year was she born?
91. My eldest son is 88. 90, I got miscarriage. And then I fell pregnant 91 with Melissa in October.
Okay. Oh.
But Rachel, guess what? I thought Melissa will come out not alive. She did not move in my tummy at all. The way I was stressed.
You said your husband would beat you as well.
Yeah, you would beat me. You want to hit me with a panga. Yeah, hit me in the room. Because he'll come home, have love bites, doesn't have his wedding ring on. And then I'll just ask him, hi man, whose virgin did you take now? That is the type of person.
Yeah.
Then I get a beating. He'll kick me, Then I said, I'm going to divorce. My mother didn't know nothing because we believe that you make your bed, you lay on your bed.
Yeah.
Ne? His sister actually went and tell my mom. There was girls in the house, and I assume it was one of his girlfriends. Then they left, and I came in with Wendell, and then he wanted to smack me. Then I did this, and then I broke his arm in 6. Went to hospital, and then he had a crutch on. I told my mom, because she heard most now my sister-in-law said, I've got a blue eye.
Yeah.
And then he's telling his friends now, the car's door. I said, tell your friend you wanted to hit me. So my mom said, remember, this is a Portuguese. We are very strong. I mean, I just did this and I broke his arm in 6.
That's crazy. You just blocked him and then.
Yes.
Wow.
So coming from this alcoholic parents' house violation, and now you're still dealing with this. But my kids didn't know. I made sure my kids didn't know. I was beaten in the room, come out and says, make tea, then I'll make tea. And that was just the type of woman I was.
And so they didn't know.
Oh, no, their parents was the best. Even the people wanted my marriage. They said, your marriage.
So when did you come to church? How did you get saved?
This is a nice part. I was on a Saturday. My husband used to work on Saturday because he was a printer.
Okay.
So he came from work and I sent him to ShopRite and Melissa and Wendell was with. He came back. He says, yeah, we're going to church tomorrow. I say, what church? Where's the church? He says, no, there's a tent in Extension. Sorry. Okay. Pastor Greg went to him and Pastor Greg said, we from the porter's house. Are you married? He says, yes. I said, please come tomorrow. But my husband is very vocal. My husband told Pastor Greg, you white people always come from overseas and just take our money and go back. And Pastor Greg said to him, I beg to differ. Okay, I'm so excited now. I say, hey, what time is church? He says, no, 10:30. Sharp. Yo, my kid is excited. Rachel, I don't know where did Pastor Greg learn that my husband's name was Lester. But he called my husband Lester until my husband died. My husband's name is Randall. So when we just in church, he'll call Lester.
So have you seen this side of your husband before? To church?
Yes, my husband knows his Bible. So he was smoking and drinking, but he could quote scriptures.
Wow.
And even before we came here, at my workplace, there was a pastor there. He said we must write something down. So I wrote it down, the violation of my parents. And that day, he actually spoke about forgiveness. He said, you need to forgive, not for them, for yourself. And I stood up and said, Pastor, I'm lost. Why do you say I must forgive my parents? I said, no, man, it doesn't make sense. So the Sunday we came to church, Pastor Greg Mitchell prayed for me, a sinner's prayer. He was the first one.
Wow. Did your husband pray as well or no?
Prayed with my husband as well. But he was still doing this. Pastor Greg Mitchell prayed about those that smoking. No, he went and take his cigarettes and went put it in front of the altar. I was so happy. I said, now I'm not going to spend money for cigarettes,
That moment that you prayed and he prayed with you both.
Yes.
Had you ever prayed that prayer before?
Never in my life.
How did you feel at that moment?
Rachel, when Pastor Greg Mitchell prayed with me, I felt everything coming down. And I'm like, what is this now? Because I never spoke to Pastor about what I went through.
Yeah.
I was so excited. Honestly, excited. The kids is excited. Yeah, we're going to church. Then we heard now we must come on a Sunday afternoon and a Wednesday. And we just did it.
And your husband with you?
Faithfully.
As a family?
Yes.
Did you see a change in him at home? Like, did things change?
Unfortunately, it did not. Still abused me. If I bake, it's just not for Pastor Palacos, just not for Pastor Ron Bennett, this is, I say rather for the pastors than the guy in the Shabin.
Right.
But like I say, we never argued in front of my kids. Never, never, never. Go in the room, he'll beat me up there. He'll come in, make tea, warm his food. My eldest son knew one incident, and we walked one day to the bus stop and he went to school. And he says, Mommy, why don't you divorce my father? He was 17. He says, no, man. Because my father always says he's going to divorce you. Why don't you divorce him? It was the first incident. And one day, Liban had a youth at church and he took Melissa and them to Villa of Hope, the orphanage.
Yeah.
And Melissa came in and she saw my husband. He wanted to throw me with a chandelier. And then she opened the door. That was the first time she saw that.
Was that shocking for her?
It was shocking. And then he put it down. And then she come in crying. And then he still says, I'm going to divorce your mother. She says, I don't know. I always hear Daddy divorcing my mother. Why don't you just divorce my mother? But she's crying in the same breath. Mommy must hear Liban's testimony. And they were all crying. And she's now explaining us the testimony. That was the last time.
Wow.
In 2009, now I was spiritually backslided because of my husband. My eldest son first repented and then Melissa.
So they were going to church.
Yeah, faithfully. I just came on a Sunday morning. Then I realized, no, I mustn't do this. And I came on a Sunday afternoon and a Wednesday.
When did your last son born?
2002.
2002.
Yeah.
Because it's quite an age difference between him and Melissa.
11 years. So actually Melissa grew him up.
Okay.
Yeah, I was 35 and my mom was so worried. So 2009, I just had it.
And so you prayed. What did you pray?
I prayed. I said, God, you know what? It's either we divorce or I die or my husband die.
Something has to happen.
Something has to happen because this can't go on like this. I mean, I'm miserable from my parents' house till in my marriage. It was a revival and then Sister Kathy prayed with me.
Like for salvation?
Yeah. I felt again, okay, I'll forgive him. And it was nice. It was a nice 2009. Boom, 14 August, he passes on.
Wow.
Just when everything was now, because then he became calm.
But can you imagine? So just to recap, this is chaos. You pray, God, you have to basically save him or kill him. Or take me, lack of a better term, right? My husband's mother as well also prayed that for her husband. She said, God, you either save him or kill him because I'm going to kill him.
Yes.
And he ended up getting saved. So then with your husband, you prayed this prayer. And then at the same time, you rededicate your life. You say, I got to do this no matter what.
Yes.
And then somehow it's peace.
Oh, it was
for that year.
Yes.
But what I want to say is, can you imagine if God had taken him in the time of turmoil? I think your perspective would have been different.
Yes.
You would have felt, God, I did this. But because it was in this situation with a right heart, you can have peace about it and not think, did I kill my husband?
Yes. Yeah.
What did he die from?
Severe stroke. But I think he had lung cancer because he was still smoking.
Maybe.
He actually told my mom, I know your daughter's hating me. My wife hates me. I literally hated my husband.
Did he ever repent and pray before he...
Yes, my son prayed with him.
Your son Wendell?
Yes, he prayed. He did a sinner's prayer with him. Prayed and then we rushed him to hospital. That is where he passed on.
What a miracle, though.
Yes.
Some people like to say that's the easy way out, repenting at the last second. However, it is God that we all make it to heaven.
Yes.
And for somebody to live a horrible life and still get that chance to repent, I think is so telling of God's grace, right?
Yes.
That God still loved him.
Exactly. Regardless. Yes.
So 2009, that's been a while now.
Yes, about 17 years.
Wow. Years. And how old was your son when he passed away?
He was my 7.
Yeah.
7, yeah. He was 7 years.
And he never saw anything either beforehand?
None of my kids. That is why I'm saying, Rachel, so 5 years, I was just isolated in the house. And then when I explained to my kids the way Melissa was weeping, she says, Mommy, yo.
So you told them after?
I told them after. Melissa said, thank you for the foundation you laid. If I had to see all this, what my father did to you, I would have hate men. I would have been a better person, but I thank you. We still talk. She says, Mommy, did you go through all that? I say, yeah, because I had to protect you guys.
It's amazing.
There was no fight. I didn't see nothing. I'm telling you, Chanel was crying now the other day when I told her. I said, you and Melissa was in the room when your uncle hit me. She says, hi, Auntie Tana. Yeah, I said, I was screaming, Chanel, Melissa. The way they were fast asleep. Yeah, he'll just hit me in the room.
And the whole time, and there's people over,
Yes, he'll do it.
Wow. Did you ever talk to any of your pastors about it?
Never. That's
something that's you've helped.
Like Melissa will tell her, that's my mom. She'll say, how's my mom doing? I'm on top of the world. She says, Mommy, please talk. I said, no, I'm on top of the world. I cast my burdens. I'll speak to God. I'll go on my knees and I'll pray.
That's a lesson that we all need to learn from.
Yes. Rachel, it took me a while. I gained weight. And then I asked one of my specialists, why am I gaining weight? He says, what happened? I just lost my husband a month ago because they thought it was my heart. He says, no, because I'm very relaxed. And Melissa says, your husband is not here. But if I dish up, I'll put his plate there. I'll put his cup there. You know, it took a while. It took me 5 years to get out of that shell.
I mean, up until the very last year, you're living in this tormenting relationship. But obviously, there was something that you're still mourning him. It's not like you're like,
yeah, no, definitely.
good riddance, you know?
Yeah.
Why do you think it took so long for you to just figure out who you were?
You know, I was thinking and I was questioning God. I'm like, no, I was such a good girl. I was a good daughter for my parents. I can't say anything I did wrong. Or if I went out, my mother knew I went to the club. I had my curfew. She said by 12 o'clock, 5 to 12, I'm in the house. She'll open the door. I'll make tea for her and then I'll explain to her, oh, Mom, it was so nice. Because I was very honest with my mom.
Yeah.
You know, you'd rather tell me where are you going in case something happens here.
Yes.
And you told me you were here.
Yes.
So my mother knew exactly. And I'm going with these friends of mine.
Yeah.
And I was just questioning God and saying, why me? And I said to myself, I made a stand. And I told my mother, I'm not going to be an alcoholic. I'm not going to smoke. But I'm going to protect my kids one day if I have kids. In fact, I don't even want kids.
Yeah.
But even my boys, you know, it actually taught me to speak in tongues. Ronan.
And that's your youngest, for those who don't know.
And then I now started to read my Bible because this is something new, you know, with Pastor Craig when, you know, he was praying for me. And when Sister Kathy, you know, and that is when I let go of everything. And then one day, Ron was, come, Mommy, let's pray in tongues. And he was 8 years old. I said, okay, teach me how to pray in tongues. And then that is where I can quote scriptures now. And my kids, especially Ronan, he says, you know what, Mommy, you used to shout us in news. I says, you always used to say, take the road and and this and that. I say, yeah, did you think I'm crazy? And one day, there was something in the Century concert. And Melissa went and testified. I think now she's going to testify how she repented and what. She says, guys, my mom was a devil.
Wow.
And I was, Rachel, I'm telling you, if you look at me like that, why are you looking at me?
I would never say that about you. I would never think that.
Yeah, no, I was a heartless person. I know people doesn't believe. Even my own sisters are so proud of me, especially the one who was violated. She will look at me like this. Oh, why are you looking at me? She says, you know what? I can't believe you're such a softie.
Wow.
My sister will come and say this one. I'll grab it. Yeah. I used to take Melissa and grab and just throw it against the wall, Wendell. And I said, no, man, this is my anger. Why must I take it out on my kids?
So you were saved in the beginning and then you had some years of backsliding, this and that. What would you say was the one turning point that you saw yourself change, where you were actually able to release the hatred and release the bitterness to a point where you recognized, okay, I'm not the same person now?
Rachel, I'm going to be very honest. After my husband's passing,
okay,
I think I would have eventually killed him or something. Because I used to sleep with a knife. So when he comes in drunk, first thing he goes under my cushion and he'll take it out. So I said, I just want to cut you just here.
You would tell him that?
Yes. And he knew I would, because I almost killed my father. Because I stabbed my father and then the bread knife just flipped twice already.
You stabbed your father?
Yes. Because of
the situation?
Of the situation. So he knew. And remember my granny was, so I said, no, I can't be. I can't be like my granny.
Wow.
So it's after my husband's passing.
You felt the freedom too.
Well, the freedom. I always tell Melissa, I hated your father, but he was a good father. He was not a good husband, but you're the best father. He was the one that talks. So they'll write letters and say, Mommy, I'm sorry, forgive me. Because then I realized, okay, I'll take you, I'll throw you against the wall. But then he'll stop me. Because both of us were very strict, you know.
So you both,
Yeah, both of us.
so he would refrain from hitting because he knew.
Yes. Then when I go to bed, then I'll hear you talk. Hey, but you guys, you know your mom. They'll write a letter and stuff. I thought at one stage I will lose my kids because I was just like this. Oh, I was heartless, Rachel.
So this is why I do this podcast, is because we've been here almost 3.5 years. But when I come in, I only see this Rutana.
Yes.
I only see this person and that person, how they are. Hearing where they come from.
Yeah.
And letting people share because no one has this ability on their own.
Yes.
We can pretend and we can clean up the outside, pretend that we're okay.
Yeah.
But like you said, that was still in you, that anger, that bitterness, that resentment, and essentially reliving your parents' lives in a way.
Exactly.
But the power of God to really get in. And I think you said after your husband passed away, but I bet you it was the decision first.
Yes.
Your decisions first.
Yes.
That set the tone for 2009. And then God took him. Yes. It was his time and he prayed. We believe he's in heaven.
So nice that,
it was like God was waiting for you to surrender that, where he's like, okay, now I can work in you.
Yes. Yeah.
And to see this woman in front of me now, I mean, literally everyone in this church loves your smiling face, that you would never know that this was the person before. Because like you said, you come in, you're always smiling. You might be struggling. You're never going to show it. You're smiling and it's infectious. When you come and you do nursery, I always think, oh, I'm so glad Rutana's in here. You have your smock and you put it on and these kids, they're going to mind you, but they know you love them at the same time. And that's what everyone sees in the church that gets to know you, is that they see this woman who is so happy to just be in your place, serve God, be faithful. You take care of the grannies. Just the impact you have by just being yourself. By just letting God's light shine through you. Not to sound cliche, but it's great. Somebody mentioned your name to get you to come on the podcast and talk. I think that's a great place to end. But before we wrap up, your oldest son, I've never met him, I don't think.
No.
But then Melissa is now a pastor's wife.
Yeah.
Her and her husband are in Mayor's Park. They have 3 children. So you have those 3 grandkids. Do you have other grandkids?
And my son's son, my 10-year-old.
Okay.
Dominic, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Dominic.
And your grandson's mother passed away.
The mother, yeah.
So there's Wendell, and then he has a son. And then Melissa has the 3. And then your youngest is still young.
Yeah, no,
he's 21?
He's 22.
22.
Yeah.
Okay. And he does come to church.
In my house, yeah.
Yeah. So just to finish out the story, now you have this blessing of watching your children, your grandchildren be in church, and they're not repeating the cycle.
Rachel, as much as I hated my husband, I don't regret my kids. So I thank the Lord for my kids. I don't regret my kids, and I adore my grandkids.
Yes. Well, the scripture promises that, right? When you say, God works all things out for the good.
Yes.
And you can see that even in the midst of sin, we may ask, why does this happen? Why does this happen? But it's sin. Sin is the reason.
Definitely.
But when we decide to give it to God, and even amidst all of your questions and your up and downs, you still pushed your kids toward God.
Yeah, no, I did.
And God worked it out for good. And God's always faithful. Even when we're not, God is faithful. Yes. And I think your story demonstrates that so much.
Yes.
Even in the hardship, even in the worst circumstances where people don't even know what you're going through. And now people are going to know.
Yes.
And people, I will definitely say, are going to be shocked. Like, how could we not have known? Does Pastor Lieben know now? You've talked to him.
Yeah, Neo, he was saying, why are you sitting here? Are you going to talk about this again? Because he knows.
He knows, yeah. And he really does love you so much.
Yeah,
you can see it. It's like you were another mom.
Yeah, I am. And then the other thing, Rachel, Melissa never knew this. She knows it now. She never knew that she was my pillar of strength. As small as she was such a joy. That child. Until today, she says, Mommy, I can't believe it. I thought you my pillar of strength. I said, you were my pillar of strength.
Yes.
When I was beaten up there in the room, then she'll just come and the light will just shine. So she was my pillar of strength. It just amazed her. She says, Mommy, thank you that I was your pillar. I say, yeah.
Yeah.
Shy, because my boys is introverts.
Yeah.
And my daughter's like me. Maybe she could sense something.
Yeah.
But at that moment when I was beaten up and then she'll come in the room, how's my mom doing? And I'm like, yo, you don't want to know. I'm fine, my baby. You know?
It's amazing.
Yes, she was my pillar of strength, kept me going. There was one time I almost committed suicide. I was drinking bleach because I couldn't take it anymore. And my husband was sitting in the dining room when I drank it. And when he came already, the things was running. And then he phoned my sister. It was a nurse at the time. Till today, they didn't also know what was happening. Because my sisters adored my husband. He was a people's person.
Yeah.
They didn't know what I was going through. So my highlight, my daughter was my pillar of strength. And she's still today. Till today. Otherwise, maybe I wouldn't have even been here.
Yeah.
Because I attempted a few times that they don't even know.
Did your sister get you to the hospital or?
Luckily, because she was a nurse at the time, I think she came in time and she just made me drink a lot of milk.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she was asking my husband, what's it? But he says, I don't know, I'm sitting here, you know. Until today, they don't know.
Wow.
Because I'm a very jolly person. I'm a positive person.
Yeah.
You must be careful about your tongue, man.
Yeah.
No, and I always talk to people, you need to be careful what you say. Don't hurt people's feelings. I think before I say something.
Yeah. The older I get, the more I realize.
Yes.
And then you try to tell your kids, you better watch what you say.
Yes.
Because
yes.
words carry power and spirit.
Exactly.
And you're doing something in you.
Yes.
When you speak out things, and you better be careful what you let go, because you can't take it back. I mean, I'm guilty of it. We learn, but yeah, I understand how your children can be your strength.
Yes.
And I've learned things from my children. And I try to tell them I'm still learning. And when you see your kids say things that are so above their maturity level or something, and you think, hey, that convicted me.
Yes.
You're like, you're smart. And God is so good. So before we go, there's one thing that you could say to maybe there is somebody that's struggling with a lot of hatred or bitterness, or maybe they are stuck in an abusive relationship. You know, we don't condone divorce, but maybe if there's something as a Christian woman now, what would you say to a woman or to a person? What kind of encouragement could you give?
Rachel, I'm going to be quite honest, because we, from the old generation, we always thought about the kids and we didn't know the impact it had on us, because you stay in the marriage because of the kids. So when Melissa got married, I said to her, Melissa, I don't want you to go through the same thing, but you is in the right path. You need to pray. And I told her, you have now the right people in the right places. Go to pastor.
Yeah.
I wish I would have done that.
Yeah.
But because also of my pride, maybe. Because people know me as this bubbly person.
Yeah.
I mean, what am I going to tell pastor? I've been beating up, every day, all day. Oh, no. So that's advice I can say.
Yeah.
Just open before it's too late. It goes further.
Yes.
When it starts, open pastor.
Yeah.
That I can say, talk to your pastor, like you were saying, if I had to speak to Pastor Craig that time or Palako, I would have been in a better place.
Yeah, somebody to support you.
You guys have a support structure.
Yeah.
Own pastor, and that's it.
That's great. It's such a good thing to sit with you here today and see that through everything, you're still here.
Yeah.
You're still faithful, and you are a pillar that people look to. I think your story is going to help other young people, young women or young girls, married or not, but just that there's hope, that they don't have to repeat their parents' mistakes. They don't have to just keep quiet, that Jesus can and will find a way to help. And now you're reaping the benefits of a life surrendered and changed. That's awesome.
So
I'm so thankful. Thank you again for being here.
You are welcome.
Yes, I appreciate it. I want to say thank you to each and every one of you listening. Without a listener, this story can't be heard. If you enjoyed this episode or any previous episode, please, like I say every single time, share it, share it, share it. Don't underestimate the power of a transformed life. Last of all, if you are not a Christian, or perhaps you were but turned away, or you're just struggling like we heard today, and you want this change for yourself, John 3:16 says God sent his only son, Jesus Christ, to pay the price for our sin. Just acknowledge your sin, recognize Jesus paid the price for your sin, and ask him to forgive you. And that can be the beginning of your new story. Until next time, this is Rachel Heimberg, and you've been listening to Not the Same.